my name is Terri Erskine, and I was just interviewed by Keith Andrew. And I had a blast. This was a lot of fun, and I highly recommend this. So give it a listen. Thank me later.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Keith Andrew, and you're watching the Keith Andrew Network. That's available on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, and all social medias. I'm the talk show host with learning disability, and this is episode 1183. That's right, over 1,183 episodes available only on YouTube and all social media. So here is a great guest. She already introduced herself. So the first thing we're going to talk about is Tuesday night. And if you're a fan of WWE NXT, available on the USA Network at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 o'clock Western, make sure to watch WWE NXT. It's also available on Peacock. With that being said, we're going to start off with icebreakers. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself and the type of work that you do.
My name is Terri Erskine, and I own a theater company called Mad Madam Productions. I have been in entertainment for approximately 25 plus years, including theater, acting. I'm a scare actor, a writer, and I'm a tech. I do lights, sound, and I'm a stage manager.
Oh, that's absolutely amazing. When you were in, well, let me ask you, when you were in high school, did your high school have like a coffee house or any type of show where you can learn lights and sound? Or did you do that in college?
So I actually did do some theater in high school, but not in my high school. It was Lake Worth Playhouse, and it was an actual playhouse that I worked at. I don't know if they served coffee or not. I didn't drink coffee in high school.
Well, there was well, it's not actually a coffee house. They just call it coffee house. But they put on shows and different plays. And in my school, they had a group called Audiovisual, or AV, where you go in and you can learn the cameras and do lights and sounds. They had their own radio station. So the audiovisual department in my school actually helped me a lot. So it's funny we have that in common.
It's interesting.
So the
It's
next
really weird that I didn't do any real theater in my school. I did it outside of school.
Well, the next one I want to ask you, you mentioned you own your own theater company. First
Mhm.
question is, who inspired you and how many years have you been running it?
So I started Mad Madam Productions in 2009. Um, I actually worked with a group called Greater Orlando's Actors Theater, and I put on their late night shows. My very first show was actually this zombie behind me called For Love or Brains. And it's a zombie musical. I don't know why I wrote it. I just wrote it. And I put on their late night show after the main show, and it was a little community theater in Winter Park, Florida.
Well, let me ask you, what's difficult about, because this question covers your acting and your writing, so instead of repeating it over and over, so this one covers your acting, writing, directing, everything that you do. So what is difficult about running your own company and being your own producer?
Um, Staying organized, uh, remembering to do a bunch of things. For instance, if I'm putting on a fringe show, which I'm actually not doing this year because I have to recover after surgery. But if I'm putting on a fringe show, if I have a cast, um, keeping everybody in contact, staying organized, filling out all the forms, doing a bunch of things in a timeline that I won't forget everything because it all runs down to me. Not only do I pay for everything, it's my responsibility to make sure everybody does their job.
I agree with you. That's like the same thing how I feel about my talk show. When I interview people, it doesn't always fall on me to get views. It's my job to be funny and entertaining, but it's always up to the guest too, because I feed off positive energies. If we're having fun making jokes, it's going to be one hell of a great episode. But if you're just going to be sitting there twisting an arm, it's kind of, or your episode doesn't get any views, it makes me look bad. It's like, well, you've been doing this for a long time, and obviously people don't, they can't give a shit about what you're doing. So don't ever do anything half-ass. This is what I want to do to the day I die. I found a passion. And you, like with your company, I bet that's your passion because you are an writer, a producer. You created your own company for all these years. Does that motivate you? And this is what you want to do for the rest of your life?
So literally for me, it was when I was diagnosed with this super rare genetic disease that I have. Um, I just decided that I wanted to reunite my passion for art. And I got involved with theater, even though I said when I moved to Central Florida, I would never do theater again. I was so sick and tired of theater down in South Florida. I'm like, I'm not doing any of it. And then I got involved, and now I was called the theater whore of Orlando, and I wear that with a badge of honor. I've done a whole bunch of community theater. I've done professional theater. Like I said, I'm a scare actor. I scare the snot out of people every September and October, and I love it. I
And
don't
it
think there's anything else I would rather do.
absolutely, and it's uncensored, so you can express yourself however you want.
I appreciate that.
Uh,
I always say I scare the snot out of people because I've been a scare actor for 25 or 26 years, and I just love making people. I've made somebody shit their pants, so I love what I do. There's nothing I don't care for about it.
I can't remember if it was my sister or my sister's friend. They went to a haunted house, and one of the actors jumped out at her. And it was either her or a friend who punched the actor right in the face, like, yeah, maybe this is not a good idea to bring you here anymore.
I mean, as a haunt actor who has been kicked, slapped, punched, I've learned over the years how to stay away from those swings. But there was more than one point where it's about timing, really. You step in, you scare somebody, you step out. And I didn't step out fast enough, and this big guy right in the face. And I was like, oh, I actually had to go to health services because my face just went "Ooh," and just swelled up horribly. So it happens.
It does. So the next one I want to talk to you about, as a writer, what were some of your favorite things you ever written, and have you ever thought about ghostwriting?
So I've never thought of ghostwriting before. I don't know how to ghostwrite. So some of my favorite things I ever wrote initially were in college. I wrote a paper called The Extended Definition of the Word Dude because my professor told me not to. Um, For Lover Brains was probably a really, really big one because it's a zombie musical basically about and this was written initially in 2009. Um, so the H1N1 virus actually is the Z1N1 virus, and instead of getting an infection when you're bitten by a mosquito, you turn into a zombie. And this whole story is based on a the Johnson and Johnson company, which I used the Johnson joke, which is out of Blazing Saddles, which was dumb, but it was fun. Um, they stopped making shampoo and they started to make the zombie, was it Translator 2000? So basically the grunts and the groans were translated into English. And it was a demonstration that goes wrong where everybody gets bitten. And there's a dance off in it and a love story and all kinds of craziness. And it was the dumbest thing to write, but it was so much fun. And my actors had a blast, and we actually sold out a lot of our run. And it was this crazy little late night show where people were just like, what did I just watch? But they had a good time. They really
Well,
did.
hopefully that
And
shit doesn't really happen.
I hope not. But also, probably my favorite one was when I did Fringe last year. I did a show called Confessions of a Theme Park Worker. And I've done this show multiple times in different states and all over Florida. And basically, what this is war stories about working in the theme parks. And I've worked in a lot of theme parks all over Florida throughout my time in entertainment. And it's about, guests doing dumb stuff and the crazy stuff that goes on behind the scenes when you work in a theme park. And when I did the show this last May, people had just this gut reaction where not only did I sell out the entire run of the show, which was 9 shows, but people would come up afterwards and go, "Oh my God, I worked at this park and this happened, and I worked at this park and this happened." I'm like, okay. And it was like therapy for them, but it was also they could relate. I even actually had someone who didn't believe me. They're like, "There's no way that actually happened." I'm like, "It did though." And the one person who didn't believe me, I tell a story about working for a place called Gatorland. And I was bitten and I had to get a skin graft. And she's like, "There's no way that happened." And I had her feel the skin graft, which is on my forearm. And she's like, "Oh," I'm like, "Yeah, it's real." And they're like, "Okay." So it was interesting.
It's like the joke in Jurassic Park where uh, if things are going horribly wrong, and Jeff Goldblum says, "Yeah, but John, if something that happens and the pirates don't eat the people." But there's always a theme park. Disney, especially Disney, Six Flags. There's no such thing as perfect. There's
Yeah.
something at a theme park always goes wrong,
Yep.
and I ever cover it up, or they pay you to cover it up. No, look at SeaWorld for an example. How many times does someone have to be attacked by a freaking whale until you realize, oh, maybe this is not a good idea.
That's actually one I can't talk about is SeaWorld. I don't currently work for the park, but seasonally I do.
But I mean, just go to YouTube and type in whale attacks on.
No, I understand. I understand, but as even as seasonal employees, we can't discuss SeaWorld.
No,
That's
I
one I can't
understand.
do.
So the next subject I want to talk to you about is the coronavirus. How has the coronavirus impacted your life, and do you see life in a different point of view?
So as a person, um, so like I said, I have a rare genetic disease, and once 2020 hit, um, life became staying primarily at home. I had to isolate, and if I did go out, it had to be in a mask. And I was actually one of the phase one group in Orlando Health that got their um, shots first. You know, I think I
Front,
got Pfizer, which
frontline
was my
people, right?
no, not frontline, because I was a certain patient group. I was like number 94 of the people who got their vaccines. I was phase one after the frontline workers, nurses, and doctors who got their vaccines because of the type of patient that I was. Like I said, I think I was number 94. And my spouse actually was able to get theirs as well the following Monday because they live at home with me. And I've basically been in a mask even really recently, even though I'm highly vaccinated, because of my genetic disease, because of all the new stuff going around, whether it's, the norovirus or different flus or RSV or any of that stuff. I still am having to wear a mask now. And, as an entertainer, we were all very, very put back that year. Busch Gardens actually did their event that year, and they're like, "Well, you can audition." And I'm like, "I don't think so." My doctor went, Nope. No, you're not. You're not auditioning. There is no way, even because they had everything outdoors. They're like, well, you have to socially distance and wear a mask. People still got ill at this event. And I'm like, I can't be there because if I get sick, I will get hospitalized. So
Yeah, I agree
2020
with
was
you.
spent at home.
That's why people at spring break that year, they're like, oh, if you get it on, what's the worst that can happen? You get sick, you get better. Everyone during 2020 who went out for spring break or 2021, they all came down with the coronavirus. It's like, you can't fix stupid.
Yeah, it was a little scary at the time, but we didn't get sick at 2021.
Now, with that being said, the next question I want to talk to you about is with everything going around social media, can social media make you or break you? With everything that you accomplish in your life, being an actor, a writer, a producer, do you give thanks to social media for giving you more opportunities, or do you think it hurts?
Oh, I do actually. I don't like use social media frequently for my projects, but for instance, the last project I did before I had to go down for surgery, basically, um, I use social media, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, to promote my show that was going up last May, which was Confessions. And I would post different posters. I would do trivia. The producer I had at the time would did a giveaway. We did all kinds of things, and I think it really helped my numbers during the event itself because not only did we have social media programs going up from January all the way through May, but my producer was all over social media every single day. And we had posters, we had artwork, we had t-shirts, we had everything to help us sell that show out. And it was sold out. It was sold out. I mean, I got patrons picking everything.
Let me ask you, with everything that you accomplished, what was the biggest obstacle you had to face and how did you overcome it?
So I would say, I mean, I've had 24 surgeries. I've had 24 surgeries from 2012 to now. The last one being in November. I would say probably the biggest one I've ever had to deal with was breast surgery. I had a bilateral mastectomy in 2019, and I've had to perform immediately afterwards, 3 months later. And I did. And people kind of looked at me a little weird, like, hey, she doesn't have a chest anymore. And I'm like, I'm still a person. I don't have a chest anymore, but I'm still a person and I'm still me. And I had actually had to have a revision to that a year later. They went back in and had to do more surgery to the my chest, and it was a lot of recovery. So,
Well, let me
you know,
ask
this
you.
this
Oh, go ahead.
disease
I'm
is
sorry.
progress. This disease is progressive. So not only have I had 24 different surgeries, but it will continue to progress.
And I do apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay.
So the next one I want to ask you is, with everything that you accomplish, how do you feel about teaching and leading people who want to follow in your footsteps? Either if they, for an example, or someone who has a disability who wants to be an actor or a writer, with your years of experience, what is your game book or game plan of saying, this is what I did and this is what I would recommend for you to follow?
So with Mad Madam Productions, I've always taught that if you want to write, produce, direct, or act, learn all of it. And what I teach when I do one of these productions is not only as a leader, always entertain everybody's suggestions. I mean, they may or may not go into the show. And I always try different things with everybody just to make sure everybody feels involved. But listening is a big thing for my company and me. But also, if you want to follow in my footsteps, learn all of it. If you can be ADHD and dyslexic and have different medical issues, you can do still just about anything and still keep going.
No, you're right. And this is one of my favorite questions I like asking people. Yeah, I have so many questions. I have producing questions, I have writing questions. Some seasons I'm just like, if it pops in my head, I say it. Some seasons I'm like, oh, let's do cards. Next season I probably won't be using these cards. But the question I want to ask you while dancing around is, with everything that you did, and I wish I had $1 for that, with being an actress and having your own company, what is hard, and not in that way, obviously. Well, what is hard about catering and building to the right audience? Because that's something I struggle with on an everyday basis.
So catering and struggling to the right audience, I will give you an example. I directed a show. I want to say it was in 2023. And no, it was not my favorite show to direct, but we did it. When I initially got the script, it was a sausage fest, and it was a drama, and it was not written well. And when I got it, I went, "You're going into the Orlando International Fringe Festival. Nobody wants to waste an hour on a sausage fest drama that has no real direction. How about we turn this into a Scooby Doo style comedy with a lot of action and a hooker fight?" And it was very raunchy. It was a comedy. It was dark. It had a lot of action in it. And in the reviews, it got torn apart. But we had a blast with it, and so did the audience. And we actually almost got patrons picked for that one too. But several of my actors actually came down with the coronavirus because it was going around, so we had to give it up. But we did what we needed to in order to get through it because I knew the audience, even though the writer and the producer did not.
Cool.
So knowing your audience is imperative in theater, in scare acting, even and even in regular acting. I'm working on a project now that I can't really discuss, but is it a niche audience? Kind of, but it's a director who and a producer who really know their audience, and I'm excited to be a part of it.
I give you an example. I'm a big fan of Suits, and Suits, it's actually available on Netflix. I would recommend it. If you have Netflix, you want to watch some great shows, make sure to watch the USA Network of Suits. Also, a new series of Suits is available every Sunday as well. But the reason I bring it up is how I watched Suits from the very start, and I'm like, you know what? I wanted to have a boss like Harvey Specter. I saw myself like my. Oh no, I never did drugs. Yeah, I mean, oh, okay, sometimes, but I never did any hardcore drugs like Mike did. But I always wanted to be an actor, and there's something about Suits inspired me to having a boss like Harvey Specter, and something about just watching it emanated something, lit a spark in me. Haven't felt that way since I watched the movie Almost Famous, because Almost Famous had a big impact on me. And because of that movie, I wanted to get into the entertainment world as a roadie, even though that's, let's see, 22 years ago, I gave up on it. But just the idea of having it leave an impression on me inspired me to go in that general direction. So the next one I want to ask you, was there a song that inspired you or a band that said, you know what, after listening to this song, this is what I want to turn my life around and go in this general direction? Or was there a TV show that actually influenced you to say, you know what, I want to do this instead of doing that?
I can't say there really was a show, not that was on the screen or even the radio. Um, I went and saw a show that I actually ended up being a part of that really got me back in the theater, and that was Godspell. And I wasn't going to do any more theater, and then I ended up with the person I was dating at the time. um, going to see their production of Godspell, and I was really into it. And they asked me to be a part of the show, and I got into it, and it threw me back into theater a lot of years ago. I mean, a lot of years ago.
But the reason I brought up Suits is because I watched it from season one all the way up to season nine. And then they're like, oh, it's a new show, Suits from LA. I'm like, okay, it's same director and everything. And they throw so much at you. It's kind of like, okay, they had the guy from Green Arrow. I think it's Steve. I don't know what his last freaking name is, but he was the Green Arrow. And like, oh, okay, he's here. He plays Harvey. But you watch the show expecting it to be similar to Suits, about all we watched for what 10 years, and it's completely different. So the reason I bring that up is you can have a great idea. For an example, I'm a big fan of Dumbo. So you can have a story similar, but how many times can you copy and paste, and change it from a black lead to an Asian lead, to different minorities and that, but it's the same story, and you keep hitting the people over the head with it. You kind of, after a while, get into a rut where you're running into the ground.
No, that's why when I started my theater company, I decided to write all original theater. I never bought rights to do shows. I started to write theater because that's what I wanted to do. The only thing that I've ever done was there's a show called the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I actually have a poster of it behind me. Um, 2020, I don't know, 2022 or 2023, I actually did a review of it, but I took the original cast, I gave them all new names. And once I did this, I took the original music and I took call lines from the movie, and I replaced the lyrics in the music from it, and that's how they sang it. And that's the only time I've ever done something that was completely original.
No, you're absolutely right. And after doing the interview, how do you feel now, and would you recommend it to other people?
I mean, absolutely. If I, I'd have to think about if there's anybody that I know that, actually there is. I would recommend them coming and having an interview with you so they can talk about what they go through as well. Because I have several friends who are in entertainment, whether they're actors or, do different parts of entertainment and have different disabilities, and they don't always feel like it's an even playing field.
No, I agree. But wrapping up, it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest. This episode will be shared on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Our goal is to reach 500 and more views. Once we reach our goal, we will definitely do a part two. But wrapping up, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And until we meet again, I catch you later. Thank you, and have a good night. Supporting me, and my message is all that matters.